Imagine for a second just looking out into the night sky. You're looking past the stars, past the absolute furthest galaxies, all the way to the very edge of everything that is. What actually lies beyond that boundary? Well, today's explainer is a journey to that exact threshold. We're going to explore a truly profound, frankly mind-bending conversation that happened between a human user and the AI Gemini. Together, they basically engaged in a modern-day Socratic dialogue about the very nature of existence, the fabric of space, and the ultimate destiny of our cosmos. It's pretty incredible. Okay, let's dive into this, because the user who kicked off this chat started with a really fascinating hypothesis. You know, we often think of the universe expanding, kind of like a balloon being blown up. But the obvious question is, what is it expanding into? The human user proposed this idea: what if, beyond the edge of our expanding universe, there is absolutely nothing? And we're not just talking about empty space here. We're talking about a fundamental void that strips away the very rules of reality. Section 1, the edge of nothingness beyond the universe. Let's step right into the first phase of this dialogue, where human intuition meets general relativity. So here's the exact hypothesis the user threw out there. At the edge of the universe is a state of nothingness where gravity does not exist, meaning the passage of time does not exist. And when presented with this thought, Gemini completely validated it. It pointed out that this is a remarkably sharp perspective. It's an idea that strikes right at the absolute heart of Einstein's theories. You see, as humans, we really struggle to visualize true nothingness. When we try to picture empty space, we usually just imagine a dark, quiet room, right? But in modern physics, that dark room is still a physical thing. It has dimensions, you can measure distance across it. True nothingness, or mu, as they discussed in the original chat, is the complete absence of space-time coordinates entirely. It's a state that completely lacks the very fabric of reality. And this leads us to a pretty staggering realization. In relativity, gravity isn't just a force pulling things together, it's the actual warping of space-time caused by mass. So if you're out there in a state of true nothingness, there is no mass. There is no gravity. And without gravity to warp space-time, the physical rules you need to measure cause and effect just vanish. In this void, time literally stops. Time simply doesn't exist. Section 2. Activating the cosmic void, creating space. So, if the outside is a timeless void, how does our universe actually interact with it? And this brilliantly illustrates the concept the user actually called activation. Gemini pointed out that the expansion of the universe isn't like water pouring into an empty glass. Instead, it's the active creation of space itself. As the universe pushes outward, it's actively converting that raw nothingness into functional space-time. It is literally writing the physical laws, like gravity and time, into existence right there at the cosmic frontier. Gemini structured this beautifully by breaking the universe down into 3 distinct states of physical activation. First up, we have the inside universe, which is fully activated. That's where we are. Here, gravity works, matter exists, and time flows naturally from past to future. Then you have the edge of the universe, which is currently activating. Think of this as the front line where space-time is actively being generated. And finally, the outside universe, which is pre-active. Out there, time and physics are either entirely absent or they're just sitting in a frozen waiting state. The universe is literally pioneering new territory right out of the void. Section 3. The ultimate fate of matter, the big freeze. But of course, nothing lasts forever. The dialogue then shifted its narrative way forward in time, asking a pretty haunting question. What happens when this activation process outlives the physical matter inside the universe? According to the leading theories we have in cosmology right now, we're heading toward a heat death, which is also known as the Big Freeze. Over trillions of years, matter will dilute across all this ever-expanding space. Eventually, even the black holes will evaporate into radiation, and what you're left with is a cosmos entirely dominated by dark energy, that mysterious force driving the expansion, just an empty, freezing void continuing to expand forever. Yet Gemini brought up this totally fascinating alternative proposed by the Nobel laureate Roger Penrose called conformal cyclic cosmology. In his theory, when the universe becomes completely empty and endlessly scaled out, it actually loses all sense of scale and distance. And mathematically speaking, this vast empty void becomes completely indistinguishable from the exact infinitely dense moment of a new Big Bang. The end of one universe literally becomes the activation of the next. Section 4. The dark energy limit, finite fuel. And this brings us to a really crucial pivot in the dialogue. The user boldly challenged a fundamental assumption in physics. What if dark energy isn't just some infinite, unchanging constant? What if the universe only has a very specific, limited amount of this fuel to drive its expansion? Gemini noted that if we apply a limit to dark energy, the entire destiny of the universe completely rewrites itself, leading to what we might call a second activation. One scenario here is the big crunch. If dark energy just runs out, or if its anti-gravity properties suddenly reverse and become an attractive force, the expansion would just halt. The universe would then begin to collapse back in on itself. Time and gravity would compress, eventually crushing all of space-time down into a single point, potentially restarting the cosmic clock from scratch. Another wild scenario is vacuum decay. If the dark energy that fills our seemingly empty space is actually sitting in a false, unstable state, it could suddenly drop down to a lower, true energy state. This phase transition would spread outward at the literal speed of light, instantly rewriting the fundamental laws of physics across the entire cosmos. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the profound philosophical contrast it highlights. If dark energy is infinite, our reality is basically doomed to an eternal void, an endless, empty, freezing expansion. But if dark energy is finite, well, then the universe possesses a built-in limit. It results in a system reset. The universe essentially becomes this elegant engine of cyclical rebirth. Section 5, the cosmic reset, endless renewal. This leads us right to the climax of the conversation. Let's move to the timeline and see how this builds into a truly magnificent dynamic loop. At time zero, we have the Big Bang, the initial activation right out of nothingness. Eons later, we experience expansion, which is the era of growth and structure that you and I are living in right now. Trillions of years from now comes dilution, where all matter just fades away. And finally, we reach the snap, or the reset. That dark energy limit is reached, the old universe is cleared away like a blank canvas, and the cycle prepares to begin anew. 1. Just a single solitary number. This represents the singular budget of dark energy our universe possesses. It is a finite fuel source, and it's this exact, specific amount of fuel that dictates the precise size, scale, and lifespan of our entire reality. So the crucial point is this deeply humbling conclusion. If gravity is the thing that allows time to exist, and dark energy is the finite battery that limits the lifespan of that gravity, then time itself is not eternal. Time is just a temporary phenomenon. It's a localized effect that only exists while the universe's battery still has a charge. As the user and Gemini collaboratively concluded, the universe is an energy-limited dynamic process. It is a system driven by a finite resource, resetting when it reaches its limit. I love that. It totally transforms our view of the cosmos from some static, doomed void into a magnificent breathing mechanism of endless renewal. Which leaves us staring back out into that night sky, armed with a profoundly different perspective. The expansion of space isn't just galaxies drifting apart. It's the active construction of reality from the void. But if the amount of dark energy dictates the length of our cosmic story, what exactly happens when our universal battery finally runs out?